Have you ever stopped to think about how much of what you believe about another country comes straight from the movies? Well, today we're going to follow one person's incredible journey from the Soviet Union to the United States. And we're going to see exactly what happens when that Hollywood fantasy crashes headfirst into a very, very different reality. Okay, so just try to imagine this. You're growing up, and you're being shown two completely contradictory pictures of America. In the 70s and 80s, Soviet media painted this bleak picture of a capitalist wasteland, right? All unemployment and poverty. But then, almost overnight, during Perestroika, the whole story flips. Suddenly, America is this glittering consumer paradise where everything is beautiful and you can get anything you want.
And that early propaganda, it was intense. I mean, they were literally telling school children that if you couldn't pay for an ambulance, it would just drive off and leave you to die on the street. State-run media would send film crews to the absolute worst neighborhoods in the U.S. just to broadcast this constant message of misery and decay back home.
And then, in the late 80s, a complete 180. It was astonishing. The very same state TV suddenly starts broadcasting these images of gleaming, fully stocked supermarkets. Now, one theory is that the government actually wanted to encourage people to leave, to get its own citizens out. And for the person whose story we're following, well, it worked. Under this new wave of praise, he decided it was time to go.
But you know what? State propaganda was nothing compared to the real powerhouse, Hollywood. And here's the irony. The USSR showed American movies as a way to critique the West, but they ended up having the exact opposite effect. So take a movie like Convoy. The message was supposed to be about these heroic truckers rebelling against corrupt police. But what captivated Soviet audiences? The trucks. These massive, powerful machines with sleeping cabins inside. Compared to the standard Soviet Kamaz truck, this was pure science fiction. It was unbelievable.
And then you had a movie like Flashpoint. Okay, so the plot is a critique of government corruption. But what did people actually see? They saw Border Patrol officers driving these cool Jeeps that never broke down, living in their own private houses, wearing these sharp, clean uniforms. For the average worker watching, that didn't look like corruption. That looked like an amazing life.
Heck, even a sci-fi flick like Starman, which is all about a cruel government hunting an innocent alien, basically became a feature-length advertisement for America. What really stood out was the road trip itself. You saw motels, diners, burgers, and Coca-Cola, all available instantly. No queues, no ration cards, just there.
And when you put it all together, the shiny cars, the endless food, that incredible sense of freedom, it created this irresistible, perfect image. He wasn't just seeing a country on screen. He was seeing a movie that he desperately, desperately wanted to live in. So, what happens when you finally step through that screen and into the real world? Well, the collision between the Hollywood fantasy and the day-to-day reality was, to put it mildly, immediate and pretty stark. All right, let's just do a quick breakdown of the biggest disconnects. The myth from the movies, it promised a life of leisure, easy money, and this kind of action hero freedom. The reality? Relentless work, really careful financial planning, and a society with some very, very strict rules about confrontation. At first, the money just seemed unreal. I mean, when you're coming from a place where you might make $30 a month, hearing that Americans made $5 an hour, it sounded like a king's ransom. He honestly thought you could live like a movie star on that kind of wage. But the truth hit hard. A minimum wage job couldn't even cover an apartment. The real American life wasn't about spontaneous freedom and road trips. It was about constant work, it was about education, saving for retirement, and always planning for the future. There was literally no time for those movie road trips. And the disillusionment with food was just as bad. That dream of eating burgers and pizza every single day, it completely vanished after he started feeling sick all the time. He quickly realized that to actually be healthy, you had to avoid that lifestyle and cook at home. The cinematic dream was actually a health nightmare. Now let's talk about one of the biggest surprises of all, violence. American action movies are just filled with bar brawls and street fights, where the heroes solve every problem with their fists. So the expectation was a society where, physical confrontation was pretty common. Yeah, that could not have been farther from the truth. Back in his Soviet school, physical fights, what they called mordo boy, were a daily thing, and the adults just looked the other way. But in New York, He learned fast that throwing a single punch could get you arrested, fired from your job, and completely ruin your entire future.
This required a total psychological rewiring. His whole definition of strength was turned completely upside down. In America, he learned, resorting to your fists isn't brave, it's foolish. True strength was about protecting his future, his family, and his career by de-escalating, not throwing it all away for one moment of anger.
So if the American dream wasn't the one Hollywood promised, what did it actually take to succeed? Well, the answer, surprisingly enough, wasn't found in America at all. It came from a skill he learned way back in the Soviet Union.
See, as a teenager, he joined a Kyokushin karate class, and the training was absolutely brutal. We're talking 2 hours of nonstop, high-intensity workouts, endless push-ups on his fists, drills where your only job was to learn how to take a punch. The whole thing was designed to push you way, way beyond what you thought your limits were.
But he learned a lot more than just how to fight. He built incredible physical endurance, and even more importantly, this unbreakable mental discipline. And he noticed something really fascinating. The school bullies who joined the class, they all quit within a few days. They just couldn't handle the real work and the pain. And that was the crucial connection. That grueling karate training, that ability to endure and to just keep going no matter what, it turned out to be the perfect preparation for the grind of immigrant life. It taught him a vital lesson. The human spirit is capable of so much more than we think. So in the end, the American dream wasn't some Hollywood playground of fast cars and easy living. It was an arena. It was a place where the discipline and the endurance that were forged in a Soviet dojo were the exact tools he needed to work hard, to build a future, and to achieve a real earned stability. This whole story is just such a powerful reminder of how media can build our entire reality for us. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What movie version of the world are you living in right now? And what happens when the credits finally roll and you have to face what's real?